seems like the world is changing, and Amazon seems to be right there on the edge of that change.
That was the voice of Dean Koontz, a master of suspense who has written books and sold more than 500 million copies of those books worldwide. And he is my guest this week because he has a collection of short stories that is now available as part of Kindle Unlimited at Amazon.com. It's 6 stories, and the character that stars in them is named Nameless. He's a man without a name, and that's the name of the series. I recorded this interview with Dean Koontz a couple of weeks ago in advance of the release of the collection, so I've had it queued up and ready to go. And I'm going to have it be sort of a special episode with just my conversation with Dean Koontz, and won't be having some of the usual news and tech tip and other things which we have. We're going to put all the focus on this remarkable writer. This is the second time I've had a chance to talk with him, and I really enjoyed it. He's quite a dog lover, and when I was talking with him, it was in the lead up to when it was looking as if we were going to be putting our Yorkie Claire down, and you'll hear Dean offer some sensitive guidance to how difficult a thing that is with a couple of dogs that had that same fate in his world. So hope you enjoy this interview. We're going to run it, we'll just start right into it now, and hope you enjoy the show. This is the Kindle Chronicles. I'm Len Edgerly, recording from Cambridge on November 15th, 2019.
Well, they're about a character who is nameless. He apparently has amnesia. He cannot remember anything of his past except the most recent 2 years. But he's also on a mission, and he's not quite sure that he understands who funds his mission, how this is all accomplished. But he's trying to set right wrongs that have happened. People who have been victims of criminal activity, but the law isn't there for them for one reason or another. And it's his job to be, or it's his mission he's taken, to resolve these situations and to right the wrongs and take care of the people who committed the criminal acts. And he's well funded. There are people behind him that provide the cars he uses, the weapons he needs, but he's clueless as to what this is all about or who he once was. And that's sort of the initial premise, although we kind of work towards some answers in this, aside from the 6 stories themselves.
And it looks as if the stories can be read on a standalone basis, but there might be a little more pleasure in reading them sequentially.
Yeah, I think it's best to read them sequentially, but we tried to make them be self-contained so that you could start anywhere. But I think it's like any time you have a character who evolves over a period of time, it's more fun if you're there with him in the beginning and you see how he's evolving, how he is being haunted by this situation, and where it leads him in the final one of the 6.
Right. Now, Amazon's been saying that you can read these in one setting. They're described as short stories. Does that mean they're quite a bit shorter than the Ricochet Joe, which was kind of a novelette?
No, these are actually novelettes.
They are?
Yeah, altogether I think they're 70-some thousand words comparatively. Okay. So they're around 12,000 words each, some a little longer, one or two a little shorter. Right.
I wondered if, given the amazing arc of your life you described, growing up in a difficult childhood and now this, does a part of you envy a character who is nameless and who operates under many different identities instead of one that's so widely known?
Well, I don't know how widely known, because I think there's people in my family don't know what I do, but there's something. I think what appeals about it is the sense of somebody having the ability to set right things that have been done wrong to people, and that's a very appealing. It goes back to westerns like Shane and Paladin, that old TV series, which is a very appealing concept. But always in those stories, the person knows why they're doing it and what this is all about. In this one, he's finding his way to understand who's behind him and why he's doing this, although he believes that the amnesia he suffers is amnesia that he wanted, that was engineered somehow, that isn't simply a standard medical amnesia.
My father's 92. My mother passed away recently at 90. I'm 69. I think a lot about Alzheimer's, loss of memory, and hope that it's not something that's going to befall me, although I see signs of things I wish I remembered better. But when you have a character who's struggling with memory, is that based at all on your own experience of aging so far, or you're a little further down the road than I am?
Thank you for mentioning that.
I wasn't going to be specific.
So far, my memory seems very good. I can still sing every Paul Simon song he ever made and not get the lyrics wrong, but that's sort of my touchstone. But no, that's not particularly a fear of mine, but this character is he knows there's something he wants to forget. Yeah. If this is an engineered amnesia, that there's something behind this mission and that he doesn't want to remember it, and is sort of haunted by this realization that there's something bad in his past that's better left buried. And I think sometimes that's the thing we all feel, that we did things, we treated somebody poorly at one time in our life or something else, and we wish we could undo it or make up for it in some other way. And in a sense, I think that's what we feel with him, or why we sympathize with him. I hope that's why we sympathize with him.
Yeah, I've read, I think, 2 of them so far that there is something very sympathetic. I mean, I found myself in his corner, imagining what a challenge this would be, and kind of the ambivalence of, well, are we really going to find out why he has amnesia, and do we really want to? So you seem to have placed us right in his shoes pretty quickly.
By the time you get to number 6, we will understand why this happened, and he will have a key choice to make. And maybe one day, if this succeeds, we would follow him on another series of stories. But it would be a little different than these because of what happens toward the end of the 6th.
I see. Well, now, it's exciting that you've got some new work coming out. It also made quite a bit of news because of the deal with Amazon Publishing to publish Nameless and then 5 other books from Thomas and Mercer, starting with Devoted, due in April of next year. Why did you decide to do a deal this significant with Amazon Publishing?
Well, you know what? I had written some novelettes and even a novella or 2 that were used to support new novels at my previous publisher, and of course they sold online and they sold through Amazon. And then Amazon asked me to do a piece, and I did Ricochet Joe for them. And I was very impressed with everybody I dealt with. So and there come times in your career where, for all kind of reasons, it seems time to move on, that things are not quite what they once were. And I don't lay blame in anybody for that. It's just the way life seems to be. So when I decided I had to make a move last year, we went out with Amazon being one of the places because of my relationship with them on Ricochet Joe. And also by that time, we were working on Nameless together. And I was enjoying everybody I worked with. So my agent said, let's include Amazon with this. And I think we had 7 or 8 offers out there. And they all come, or most of them come, with marketing plans. And the Amazon marketing plan was impressive. And aside from that, once I made that decision and came to Amazon, it has been so far one of the finest experiences I've ever had working with the people in Amazon Original Stories and Amazon Publishing over at Thomas and Mercer. Writers can't ask for more supportive, more interesting people to work with. So it turned out to be the right decision.
So you were actually sort of interviewing 7 or 8 publishers to take you to your new phase of your work, and Amazon Publishing was one of them?
Yeah, it's what agents tend to want to do is take you out to everybody, or nearly everybody, and hope that there's bidding that goes on, and so we had other options, but they were of a more traditional kind. And I just have to say, it seems like the world is changing, and Amazon seems to be right there on the edge of that change.
Yeah, they seem to be kind of championing the change in book publishing as opposed to some of the other players that understandably are a little more committed to a successful status quo up till now. Mm-hmm. Now, the Ricochet Joe had this interesting Kindle in motion animation, which is really pretty subtle and sophisticated. Is there going to be anything like that in Nameless or in the Devoted series?
No, and Devoted isn't a series, by the way. It's first of 5 standalones.
Oh, okay.
But Nameless, Nameless is the story. Wonderful covers they've developed for them, and they have a little piece of illustration at the front of each. But that's more of a black and white, little frontispiece illustration. So I think it took a long time to get all that little subtle animation into all those drawings on Ricochet Joe. So we didn't want to sit around here while I get even older. And
well, if whoever did that sort of illusion of you signing the book at the start could do that part, that would be pretty fun. I really love that one. Well, so Devoted is a standalone, and it looks like it's another strong female protagonist, Megan Bookman. Maybe could you say how is she similar to Jane Hawk, who's protagonist in your 5-book series that was completed in May, and how would you compare Megan and Jane?
Well, of course, Jane Hawk is an FBI agent, former, as she goes rogue and is on the run, and becomes the #1 fugitive in the country. Megan Bookman doesn't have that kind of background. She's an artist and everything, but she is strong-willed and tough. And she's the mother of an autistic boy, Woody Woodrow, and she loves this kid to distraction. And a threat enters her life in the form of I don't want to say exactly what the threat is, but it's embodied by this one man, and it's a pretty horrific situation. And it seems to be mother and child alone against this person, except a great dog enters the story pretty early on, and it's Devoted is taking the position that, let me say first that the boy has never spoken in 11 years of life, and his autism has kept him silent, but the dog and the boy begin to communicate in some way, and really what this story is underlying it is a suggestion that maybe we're at the cusp of a new development in evolution between dogs and people, and the book plays that out through the device of a thriller, and I had great fun with it.
And there's a dog whose name is Kip in Devoted, right?
Yeah.
A golden retriever, naturally.
Naturally, I love all dogs, but I'm head over heels for golden retrievers, having had 3 of them now.
And do you still, I think we talked last year, do you still have Elsa? Is that your current dog?
Yeah, Elsa is, she just had to be photographed today for the LA Times with me, so she's going to want extra cookies for this. I can see that.
You're going to have to deal with her agent.
Yeah, well, it's... Yeah, he's probably pretty tough. He's probably a pit bull. And,
of course. I think you surprised me with how many words a dog can learn. Has Elsa learned any new words lately?
They all amaze me. The woman who founded the idea of assistance dogs, Bonnie... see, there I forgot something.
There we go.
There I go. It started.
You're right.
But she says that dogs can learn just about anything, and she certainly has taught them to do everything from assisting a paraplegic with 60 or 70 different commands to being able to smell cancer before it's detectable by machine or by standard medical test. So I kind of believe that's true. And Elsa, she loves to rush back to Judith when she gets her morning breakfast and her two cookies after. Then she bolts through the house at high speed to get back to my wife, her mom. Yeah. And it's like she hasn't seen her in days. And it's this ecstatic, whimpering, whining carrying on. But every Thursday she goes to her vet's for a bath. And I was having this problem with containing her because she wanted to get back to Julia. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to have a command to teach her. So the command was we go on a walk in the park, and then she sees her groomer. She loves her groomer, and she gets a bath. So I had park, the name of the groomer, and the word bath. And I thought, this will take a couple of months, but sooner or later she'd get it. After the second week, the next week we came into the kitchen. I said, park, and she came over to have her collar put on. Oh. And she had learned what those words meant that quickly. Amazing. And I see things all the time that she picks up. So, yeah, her vocabulary is increasing.
Huh. You know, we have a 15-year-old Yorkie named Claire, and she's pretty special to us. And my wife took her to the vet, and she has an enlarged heart and occasional episodes that kind of seem like seizures with maybe a little pain, but, you know, she doesn't seem to be pain. And so we're having hard discussions about, you know, when's the merciful time to, you know, end Claire's life as you do. But I was thinking about this, and, you know, what you're saying about dogs being smarter than we are and the possibility of a cusp of a new evolution. Have you had to put any of your dogs down in the face of how strongly you feel their kind of advanced level of being compared to just pets that probably 100 years ago were deemed to just be kind of disposable?
Yeah, it's interesting, by the way. Science is coming around to the idea that until probably 7-8 years ago, they would tell you, researchers would tell you, dogs have no emotions comparable to humans, which if you live with dogs, you know, is bunk.
Right.
And now they have been able to study the brain, and they see the same areas of the brain lighting up as they do in humans when certain emotions run through them. So they have the same emotional palette that we have. And we've had to put down our first two, both for the same terrible cancer. And it's both of them were the hardest things I've ever done. It was just terrible. But you hold them and you love them, and you don't want them to suffer. And they let you know when it's time.
That's what I was wondering, because I'm sort of on the side of, you know, St. Darlene, I think we'll know, but you had a sense that they were somehow able to transmit to you, you know, it's okay, I'm ready, or?
Well, of course, they stop eating. And if you're a golden retriever person, you know, they never stop eating. They are chow hounds.
Yeah.
So that gives you a little hint. Then if that keeps up, it pretty quickly gets worse. And something just about the way they look at you and lay their head on your lap and look at you, it's an entreaty. And
right.
It's where, you know, you think it's, you know, it's different than human beings. Human beings can make up their own minds about the thing, but dogs are totally reliant on you, and so you have to take that burden and do it when the time comes. But it's a very sad thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's helpful. There was a quote that was in the press release that intrigued me. You talked about the Amazon publishing deals, and you said that you've been creatively rejuvenated. And I was wondering, is that just because of the sense of the original take they're bringing to you in the marketing, or just that you're marking a new phase of your writing career in a significant way? Where's that rejuvenation coming from, and what does it feel like?
Well, it first of all, it kind of comes from it started in the process of the Nameless stories, and it's how people work with you, how they respond to a story, how their editorial comments are, what is the quality of the copy editing. what is the vitality of the people you're dealing with? I have to say, there is a big age difference between the crews at Amazon Publishing and Amazon Original Stories than in previous publishing experience of mine. Everybody's younger.
Yeah.
And I think that has something to do with it. When people seem to be in their late 20s to mid-30s or late 30s, or at least that's what they seem. Maybe they all have had giant remakes, but I don't think so. And there's a vitality and a different way of going at things. Then there's also the way things operate at Amazon. I've been told that not by anybody at Amazon, but by somebody who knows that an Amazon rule of business is that everyone is our customer. Mm-hmm. Even a supplier is actually our customer. An author is our customer. Mm. In publishing, there is one customer, and that's the bookstore.
Right.
And this philosophy that everybody you work with is a customer, I think breeds a kind of different approach to things that I'm finding highly appealing. And it's just, I don't know, everybody seems to be having a good time. Everybody seems to be happy and proud to be working where they're working, and that redounds well when you're working with them.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of reaction have you gotten from people that you know in the book publishing business, either the publishers or fellow authors, or what kind of ripples have you detected in that world?
Well, I kind of expected there would be some negativity because, Amazon is a big competitor. But I have friends who have independent bookstores. I have friends who were my former editors and publishers and stuff. When this news came out, what most surprised me is I received probably 15, 18 phone calls from booksellers and previous publishing executives I worked with, and every single one of them said, you made the right move.
Wow.
And that really did rather surprise me. They were all very sweet about it, and nobody said, damn you, you went to the enemy or anything like that. So,
yeah.
So I think there was kind of a widespread sense that even if Amazon may be their competitor and they wish it wasn't around, that it's doing something right.
Yeah, and they could imagine that it was going to be good for you, and they cared about you, so they were for it.
Yeah, that's very nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Those are true friends.
Yeah.
You said last time that your books have lots of challenges and a lot of darkness and things that just look like they're not going to turn out well, but there's always a sliver of light or a cause for optimism. And as you've worked on Devoted after doing the Jane Hawk series, is your sliver of light getting any wider, or is it getting even more slivery?
There's some darkness in Devoted for sure, but I am not a negativist. I'm not I'm an optimist by nature. I don't see the world as a totally dark place. I couldn't write a zombie apocalypse novel if my life depended on it, and as a consequence, even as dark and scary as some scenes will be in a book, you can pretty much know if I'm the author of it that it takes you to some place of light by the end. And that's basically what has been my experience of life. If you don't let it get you down, if you keep plowing forward no matter what, things generally more often than not turn out all right. And so that's been, and I've been given my awful childhood in a lot of very dark places, but never would give in to it. And so that's sort of what the characters in the stories do. They just don't give in to it no matter what.
Right. And that not giving into it is what leads to the possibility of a surprising outcome.
Yeah.
Do you and your wife and Elsa use Alexa devices in your home?
We don't right now, although my sister-in-law has Alexis, but we're planning on somewhat downsizing our lives, and I think in the next house we'll go for that. But right now we still have the steam engine running.
You have to actually turn on your own light switches and go search the web to find out what the weather's going to be.
It's turn on my own light switches. I have to fire up my own iPod.
Oh my gosh!
I'm exhausted at the end of the day.
Oh, that's good. And are you still working 70-hour weeks? And I mean that. What's your work life like in light of these new challenges that you've taken on just recently?
Well, I want to do the best thing I possibly can do, and I want to, in some ways, I want to get back to a kind of, I wouldn't say, to a sort of quality that, the Jane Hawk books were more of a kind of thing that is a little different than what went before. And so I want to get back to I want to get a different mix going on. So that excites you.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'd rather be working than not. And I want these books to be, since Amazon has been so good to me, I want this to be the best possible books for them to sell. And they had a very strong reaction to Devoted, and I'm soon going to submit them the second one, which is done, but I'm just fussing with it. And it's fun, I when I started this, back when there were mastodons roaming the and I had this stupid idea that there were so many tricks. I didn't know the number, whether it was 80 or 100 or 400, but there were so many tricks to writing a novel. And once you learned all the tricks, then they became easy to write. In fact, they just get harder to write because the number of tricks is infinite, and the language is infinitely complex and wonderful. And so they get harder to write, but they get to be more pleasure because you're always finding something else to do that you haven't done before, and surprising yourself that you at least halfway pull it off, and or you think you do anyway. And that's what keeps me wanting to do it. It's the creating something. It's like you're sitting here and a metaphor comes into your head, and you go, "Holy crap, is that good?" And then you can't wait to, get it and smooth it and work it out. Yeah. Then if the copy editor makes a little note saying, "Wow, I love that," then you feel justified in it. And it's the whole creative process. I don't think it's just writing. I think it's painting, music, anything. It's so fascinating that it's like things happen that come out of your own head and you can't explain where they came from. And I'm just charmed by that, and I think I'll always be. So I'm still working 60 hours a week, and when it gets to the final couple of weeks of a book, it'll go up from there because you don't want to lose momentum.
Right. Fantastic. I have been speaking with Dean Koontz, the best-selling author of Nameless, a new short story series, and Devoted, which is forthcoming from Amazon Publishing's Thomas and Mercer imprint. Thanks very much, Dean.
Well, thank you for talking to me again.
That's it for this week. My guest next week is going to be an Amazon executive, Natalia Montuori, and she is general manager for Kindle Unlimited and Prime Reading. I reached out to someone I know at Amazon because I was hoping to talk to someone from Kindle Unlimited. I had noticed on my Kindle app on my iPhone the other day that each month I was getting a selection of magazines that I could read as part of my Kindle Unlimited subscription. That's $9.99 a month. And I hadn't sort of focused in on exactly what was happening on that magazine portion of the Kindle Unlimited offering. In getting ready for the interview, which I'll have with Natalia on Wednesday coming up this week, I found 61 magazines that November, that's the number of magazines that are offered. Some ones that I really admire, The New Yorker for one, and Esquire, and a number of others. So it's a chance to get caught up with what's happened with Kindle Unlimited since it was first announced in July of 2014, and there are some other related programs like Prime Reading, and we'll have a chance to talk to Natalia about it on next week's show. I'm continuing to enjoy doing the morning journal, and it's gotten easier than ever. If you want to listen in on my 2 to 3 minute morning greetings, if you have an Alexa device, all you have to do is say, Alexa, enable morning journal, and then the morning journal, which is a flash briefing, will show up if you simply say, Alexa, what's new? If you have other news services that you're listening to that way, BBC, any others, once you go through them, it'll come to the point where it says, and here's the latest from Len Edgerly's Morning Journal. I try to think of something that might be a little bit inspiring, or something that's happened in my day that leads me to think out loud, similar to the way that I've always been writing in my journal for years. My journal, I'm looking at it over here in my desk, and I haven't actually written in my journal for quite a while because this new audio morning journal is replacing it, and I wake up pretty excited about what I might have to say. And the blueprint feature of the Alexa platform makes it really easy to record on my iPhone and get it up onto the Alexa network in just a few minutes. It's really a remarkably easy process. So check it out, and if you have listened to it, there's been a couple of good reviews. I think if there are a few more reviews on the Alexa Skills listing for Morning Journal, that might help spread it to other people. But I got the statistics from Amazon, and they said about 41 people are listening to it regularly. And I like thinking of, I know who some of you are out there, and when I sit down after my 10-minute meditation and record the Morning Journal, it's fun to imagine a small and perhaps growing group of people that are listening in. It's turned out to be a wonderful way to start each day. Thanks for listening, and I want to thank Dean Koontz and the folks at Amazon Publishing that made it possible for him to join me on the show again this week. And I highly recommend Nameless. It's well written, and you can tell by the way Dean talks about his writing, the care that goes into his work. And if you've got Kindle Unlimited, it's certainly a good thing to check out as part of that subscription that you have. And I'm really looking forward to these books that he's going to be publishing with Amazon Publishing next year, because they're going to be standalone books. And I think as he finishes up his career, hopefully no time soon, I can see that he's stretching towards some new horizons in his writing, and the partnership with Amazon Publishing is delightfully energizing. I love the way he talks about that. Thanks for listening.